Hi, today I have a car for you, which in my opinion combines a few cool features. It is nice, it draws attention to itself, it drives well, and at the same time it does not clean your pocket too much when buying. I say hello to you from the Kia Proceed GT. And why so unusually? From behind the wheel, I want to show you what has changed in this car after facelifting, and I just came to meet a guy who has a version from before facelifting. It just so happens that this white Proceed belongs to me, and today I'm going to tell you about this car, not only from the perspective of a journalist, but also a user. Let's go! Well, since I've already told you what I drive every day, I'd like you to know the story of this car. I fell in love with Proceed about 3 years ago when I was at a presentation of this car in Barcelona. After only 2 days, I told my friend that I will buy this car one day. And here it is. I've been the owner of Proceed GT for a year now, and I must tell you that I'm still in love with this car. But as it happens in real relationships, the choice is never perfect. And this car also has its flaws. But about them later. First, what has changed? Proceed came with the lifting in the mid-2021, exactly 2 weeks after I took my car from the showroom. On the one hand, it can't be worse. On the other hand, not everything in the new version looks good. I'm telling you what, the biggest change after the lifting is in the front. First of all, the headlights have changed. I have LED lights in the shape of 4 diamonds. Here we have 3 bevels, which looks much better to me. As for the bumper, I have mixed feelings. On the one hand, I like that it gives the new Proceed a more muscular silhouette. The front seems a bit bigger, it's much more slender on my car. On the other hand, I don't like this element of the bumper, and while in this color, it doesn't stand out much. If I had a white pearl like I have, then because of this black element, this part of the bumper looks like some fish fins or Detective Poirot's moustache. It doesn't look very good. And besides, I definitely wouldn't choose this color for the GT version. The GT version stands out with its red details. As you can see, the red elements on the bottom of the bumper and on the front grille are characteristic for the GT version. They are also here, but they totally fit in this car. You have them here in this place. You have also grille filling, and you have them on the doorstep. There is a little difference in the back, but we'll talk about it in a moment. So the infrared for the GT version totally doesn't fit because it flattens the car. When you buy the GT version, you want to have the better, bigger character, of course. I forgot to mention that the logo has changed as well. Another thing that has changed after facelifting are the rims, which are nicer. It's a matter of taste, but in the newest model, you can't have them anymore. There are also some changes on the rear, but much less. I will say right away, I like the pre-lift more than the fresh one because the rear after facelifting is much more polite in the GT version. As you can see, the lower part of the bumper has changed. It looks a bit more like the GT line version, not GT, because of this element. And as you can see, the exhaust tips are round. Mine are trapezoidal, and I have a diffuser here. For me, this looks much more interesting. To be clear, these are not real exhaust tips. They're a bit fake, but behind them there are the real ones. 2 of them, both in this and in the previous version, and this is a big plus for Kia. The Proceed logo has also changed. At first glance, it seems to be identical, but here I have the chrome. The letters are a bit thicker and more convex, and here they are matte and they are more flat and thinner, and of course the logo has changed. Old one here and new one here, so the new one looks much more interesting. What I always liked in Proceed are the details, especially the rear lights, which have a bright light. They look really great at night, and also the third stop light, which looks like it was taken out of a rally car. These things are really cool. They call this car a baby Panamera, and there is something about it because the line of this car is very similar to the Panamera Sport Turismo. And this car, besides its age, still catches eyes. And I am not telling this because I have this car, but I experience it every day. People are really looking at this car all the time. I want to show you the interior of this car, but not because after facelifting so much has changed, because only the logo on the steering wheel has changed, but because I have a heavily equipped car here in the case of a press car, and a less equipped because firstly I did it quite consciously, and secondly I don't really like the policy of Kia in the context of add-ons. Why did I do it consciously? Because unlike many people, I have a car with different systems on a daily basis. In fact, I have a different car every week, which is usually equipped with all the latest systems. So when I was buying my own car, I was able to determine what systems I use on a daily basis and which ones I really need, and not just gadgets. The second thing is the policy of Kia regarding the add-ons. I wanted to have a big screen, but I didn't want to have virtual gauges. I wanted a big screen because mine is already very far behind. I'm not talking about the speed of operation, but about the quality of the images. Here you can see the quality of the images, but in Kia you don't have this option. You can take the whole package or nothing. The technological package costs about $1,200. When I bought the car, it cost about $2,000. So I didn't want to spend that much on the screen. and this is true for many add-ons. Do you want to have the trunk lid electrically opened? There is no way. You have to buy it in premium package, which costs $1,200. I didn't like it because I thought that if I wanted to add some add-ons which I'm interested in, which are not necessary for me, but I would like to have them, I would have to pay $3,700 more for my car. I won't say that I didn't make any mistakes. For example, I didn't take an electrically controlled seat because I thought how many times the position behind the wheel changes. It changes. When you use a car with your wife and she's 20 centimeters shorter than you will often maneuver with this seat. And in the case of Kia, and yet when you get an electric seat, you also have 2 slots of seat memory. And that would certainly make things easier. I regret that. In Pro Seat, the seats are also nice. They hold you in the corners. They are very comfortable. I drove this car on long trips and I didn't get tired, but when I bought the car, they were only for GT version. Now, I saw that you can even choose GT line, but of course, they are in the premium package for $1,500. I already told you about the screen, but I would like to tell you about it a bit more because in the better version you get a 10.25 inch and I have 8 inch here. And let's face it, the quality of the displayed images, I mean the gap in the quality of the displayed images is huge. This one looks much better. I would like to have it, but not in the package. In this video I will skip some comments from our webpage about negative comments because this car is very well rated and I found only one negative comment where the owner complained about the quality of the interior. To be fair, I will check the quality. Of the interior, of course, it hasn't changed because we are talking only about the facelifting. In my car, the upper part of the dashboard is soft. Of course, it's not leather, but plastic. Here, it's hard plastic. We have a lot of piano black. That is easy to scratch. Of course, side panels of the doors are bending a little bit, maybe a millimeter. The armrests are soft, and the quality of the build is, well, it bends a bit here. At the beginning, there was some noise, but not anymore. Here, I don't think there will be any noise. Here the first noise was there, then it's quiet. It's a bit deformed here. I don't know if it's the same in my car, we'll check it out. Why not? This car, despite being newer, has a much higher mileage because it's almost 19,000 kilometers. Mine is 7,500 kilometers. We'll check the quality of this car with almost 3 times lower mileage. Let's go to me for a moment. And very quickly, everything is soft here. I think it's exactly the same. First sounds appear, then there is silence. I checked this element. It also moves gently in my car, so that's the way it is in this car. Here the seat moves. This is the central tunnel, but so far, after 8,000 kilometers, it doesn't make any noise. A very important thing to think about before choosing it is the roof window in Kia Proceed. I will tell you that when I ordered my car, I already had the roof window marked because I am a big fan of this solution. However, before buying the car, I made an agreement with the press park that I will take a test, proceed from them to put my wife behind the wheel to see how she drives this car. And it turned out that Proceed had roof window. And when I've noticed how little space is above the head and how much this roof window takes up space, I immediately gave up this option. And now I will show you what the difference is in the amount of space above the head in a car with a roof window and without it. Look, I'm set. Now let's close this. First, sit behind the wheel. And look, above the head I have 3 fingers of free space, maybe 2.5. Now look at mine. And here, 6 fingers of free space. 2 times more space. The worst is on the back, because despite the fact that I have 3 fingers of free space, just like on the front, I have a hump for the roof window in front of me, which makes me feel very claustrophobic here because I really see this roof right away. I don't feel too comfortable here just like that. And in my car, look, 5 fingers of free space, but believe me, there is no hump here. And the feeling of the amount of space is really on another level. The boot is still the same and has 594 liters and very well solved compartments. There are 8 of them in the whole boot. After folding the back seats, you get 1545 liters. Under the hood of the GT version, there is a 1.6 TGDI engine with 204 horsepower and a torque of 265 Newton meters. GT versions are equipped only with an automatic 7-speed gearbox. When it comes to driving, this car has a lot of advantages, but it also has disadvantages. I'll start with the advantages. The advantage is undoubtedly the driving, because the car, despite the fact that it is over 4.6 meters long, it drives well and it handles pretty well. There's no talking about dancing with the rear part of the car. Everything is very stiff. I was shocked that Kia could make such a precise steering system. In sport mode, it's even more precise. It perfectly reflects what's happening with the wheels. This is an amazing advantage of Proceed. The advantage is that the car is very confident in the curves due to its suspension, which on the one hand is great in terms of driving, is an amazing advantage because the car does not lean in the curves and is very confident. However, to be so very objective, it is simply too hard for this car because the Proceed will be driven more on normal roads than on the track. And as a user, I'll say it straight, this car is just too hard and too uncomfortable. As I say, I will reflect this in the driving confidence. However, you have to be careful about bigger holes. On really uneven roads, it will be uncomfortable. It's not a turbo comfortable car. And when you switch to the sport mode, the suspension gets even stiffer, and it's just even worse. The power is not a high value, but it's really enough for this car. And you can drive it dynamically without any problems, although I think that this automatic transmission could work a bit faster, could react faster to the gas pedal, could decide faster to reduce the gear change, or in some situations just know which gear to choose. Because there are moments when it just gets lost. However, let's move on to the disadvantages. The disadvantage, in addition to the suspension I mentioned to you, is still, above all, fuel consumption. Let's be honest, Proceed GT is a thirsty car. You have to count on average 10 liters of fuel consumption on a daily basis. You can lower the consumption, of course. I went to Hungary for the F1 Grand Prix and I got consumption around 6.5 liters, but the car was new. I had to drive delicately. I was driving very calmly, and then I reached the 6.5 liters. Maybe I could go down to a lower value, but it was a fight. On a daily basis, however, with such a mixed ride as if you were going out of town, a little city, a little route, I hope that the fuel consumption will be on the level of about 9 liters on average. Seriously, with this car, with such a low car, with such a streamlined shape, I think that the consumption is just too high. Another thing I would complain about is the visibility to the rear, and you have to realize that when you decide to buy this car, that the visibility to the rear is just terrible. Okay, maybe not terrible, but it's not the best because the strongly falling roofline causes that all the cars that are a bit further away from you, you just can't see them because the roof covers them. So the visibility is bad here. The car has pretty small windows there, so the visibility is low. And the last thing is the sound. As long as the exhausts are activated in the sport mode, and it's not just the sound inside, but you can also hear the car outside, then it really sounds quite nice. But when you switch it to comfort or normal mode, you get a weird noise. It's totally unnecessary noise because the car could be totally quiet and it would sound better. And now there is a weird noise when you accelerate, which is just bad. I know that somewhere you can turn off the device that does that sound, which is mounted somewhere here, but I'm always afraid of touching things like that. It will be hard to place it the factory way, and it can start to shake during driving, so I don't touch it. I'm a little used to this sound, so it's also a matter of getting used to everything, but I'll say it straight, I don't like this sound, and I think it could be turned off totally in normal mode, and in sport mode the exhaust would activate and it would be great. But to sum up, if you want to have a car that drives very well, if you want to have a car that looks really good and a car that people are looking at, because this car still attracts the eye, it is car for you. But if you expect a car that will be economical, it's not a GT version. GT version will disappoint you, but you have to take into account that regular GT line will not be like this because they don't have the same suspension. I fell in love with this car. As I told you, in Barcelona, I drove it on the track. I was even amazed how this car can hold on to the corners. And I can tell you that this love is still with me unchangingly, on the same level. I think that's what it's all about. If you love someone, you accept both advantages and disadvantages. I accept the disadvantages of this Proceed, even though it's not perfect. It's time for a summary, and I have to say that I'm getting sadder and sadder because I'm dealing with a car that you can't buy. When I bought my Proceed a year ago, there were two 1.5 engines available, a mild hybrid and a regular one, with an automatic or manual transmission, plus a GT version with a 1.6204 horsepower engine. Now, in the GT version, you can't buy it at all. The industry was suffering so much for the lack of available parts at this moment. With Proceed, you can choose only 1.5 160 horsepower and only with manual transmission. I even know that Kayasa cancelled some orders where they had fully equipped versions with automatic transmission because they were missing parts. What happened in our world? It's also worth mentioning the price because it also changed a lot. I don't want to lie to you, but when I bought this car, the Proceed started from an equivalent of $22,500. At this moment, the only version you can buy, GT line with 1.5 engine, is the minimum expense of equivalent of $3,000. The price really skyrocketed, not to mention about how much used GT skyrocketed on. It's amazing what's happening in the automotive world. I hope it will last as short as possible, and we will get back to normal to test cars for you that you can buy. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think about Kia Proceed. I am very curious about it, and if you liked it, leave a like. See you. Bye.